Okay, so I just wanted a quick update just to show where I'm at. There's a character I made in Blender real quick, and I made some animations for him and everything, and I have it so he has like these different colors that are assigned by materials, and you could, like replace some of these like so and start changing his color. Eventually though, there's a few problems with this. I mean, one right now is model is split up between like body and head and helmet and shoulder and weapon and shield. I don't know, maybe should be joined as one object so I can just quickly replace materials on all of them at the same time. And then on top of that, I need to make some kind of material changing script so that you can just swap from palette to palette, with a click of a button. And so I do need to make something like that, but it didn't seem super important right now. And then these are just referencing some color palettes that I put together, where these are kind of like the primary colors, and they're very like neutral, and then these are the actual colors, and they're like secondary colors. I just didn't want the character to be like head to toe red, every single aspect of them, and head to toe blue, cascaded all over the whole character. But eventually I do want to be able to change palettes, and they will all fit these exact palettes for each character. I have like a couple characters that I just sort of have been practicing in Blender with, and just trying to improve at Blender over time and just get, better and better as I go, kind of thing. But still a lot of work to go through before I can make really nice looking characters. But for now, this is the guy that I have. I also made some simple little planes in Blender so that it could be a stage. I wanted a really stereotypical training mode stage where it has the whole grid with the squares, so you can measure out, how high can your character jump, how far can he reach. It just seems like the perfect stage to start trying to build this scene in. Another thing is I've been looking into character controllers quite a lot. I've seen some people's tutorials and stuff where they really cram a lot into one character controller, and that probably works in quite a lot of games, but I was thinking with something like a fighting game where you have tons of different attacks, and you have crouching attacks and standing attacks and jumping attacks and blocking and push block and walking and jumping and crouch and all these different things, that might get a bit bloated. So then I started learning about finite state machines, where really you're just defining really simple states of punch, and this is what punch is. It's just my hand sticks out, it does this animation, the box collider comes out to do the hit detection, and it can transition to these couple of states, and it doesn't know about while punching, it doesn't know that you can jump or anything like that because it doesn't need to. So I started learning more about finite state machines and reading up on that and following some tutorials on that. So I rebuilt the character controller to where it's just this finite state machine, and I'm trying to keep it clean and simple, but yeah, it's definitely a work in progress. And then I guess I'll just show now. All I really have right now is walking and jumping and standing, although it does have like a falling animation, and there's actually a separation between walking forward and walking backwards. That way I can manage different speeds and different animations for them. And so here's like walking backwards, and here's walking forwards. These spheres on the bottom are actually just a ground collider, or a ground check, and then you can jump in any of these different states. So it's really just a finite state machine that's just moving between really simple states, and depending on what state you're in, you're allowed to do different things and not allowed to do certain things. So right now it's really simple with just basic movement. Eventually you'll need dash and super jump and pretty much a million different attack buttons and throw and supers and stuff like that. But it's just one piece at a time. I feel happy that this works currently, but there are some nuanced problems that I'm seeing. Like, for instance, I do want it to be kind of snappy in terms of transitioning from one animation to another, because the big thing about like fighting games is you really need to quickly identify which character is yours and which character is your opponent's, and that's where the color palettes come in. And then on top of that, you need to be able to very quickly identify like what state is your opponent in. Is he walking forward? Is he standing? Is he crouching? Like, you really need to be able to know like in an instant. So I think smooth transitions aren't as important in a fighting game as they are in some other games, like a platformer, where you really want to have everything just move really nicely. I think in a fighting game, it's like information is key. So having very identifiable states, I think, is very helpful. But there are some nuanced problems here and there. Like, I think it does need some cleaning up because this transition is just a little bit wonky with some of these different states. I think like going from walking to standing looks pretty nice, but going from, like jumping to landing to idle, I think it's just a little too snappy. And when you start holding jump and start doing that, then it starts getting just a little bit. But for now, I think it's okay. It functions, it works. I think it could look a little better though with some better animations and just a little smarter blending on the keyframes. And then I have a couple of problems as well. Like, for instance, if this were the second player, you shouldn't get this kind of drag if you're jumping into them. So that's something I definitely need to fix, because that just isn't very smooth. Also, you probably shouldn't be able to stand on his head. That's just not how something like Street Fighter would work, So trying to just keep it simple right now and just tackle like one problem at a time. And then, yeah, just happy that things are working so far. I think it's a little bit laggy as I'm recording, but it is actually smooth in the editor. But that's where I'm at so far. In the future, just going to keep adding features. I need to get some attacks in there. I need to figure out how to register, hitboxes and hurt boxes, and then eventually add stats to things like punches dealing damage and actually defining what a health bar is, and just millions of different things. But so far it's just one step at a time, and this is where I'm at so far.